7:14 on this last day of September, and I want to welcome Denis Dunderdale back to microphone number 2. He's from Arkansas Game and Fish. Last day of September.
Yes, it is, Dale.
I was at Walmart last Thursday, and I noticed they already got the Christmas decorations.
I saw that too. I just can't get my arms around that.
I'm sitting here sweating, looking for fertilizer.
Yeah.
It was over there between the Santa Claus and Rudolph,
Yeah. Let's get the Thanksgiving stuff up and out first, But anyway, I guess that's their business model.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to do it. But we had our archery season open this weekend for deer and a few other things as well. But those numbers are looking pretty good statewide. I just checked the stats this morning. Statewide, we had 3,615 deer harvested. That's not broken down by sex, although you can go on to agfc.com if you're interested.
I wanted to interrupt real quick. I'm logged into www.agfc.com. That bring up Arkansas Game and Fish, and if you got your radio on your computer, you can follow along and see what Dennis is talking about.
That's a good point. And if I had one, although I've got my phone with me. However, under the hunting tab, there is a harvest statistics, I think is what they label that as, and that's where you'll find what's being taken and what part of the state. They'll break it down by zone or by county or just total deer or sex. But anyway, in Zone 3, which is where we are, there were 432 taken so far. So those are pretty decent numbers. Last year we had our total year for 2013-14, which was 2 years ago. That was 213,000 deer total deer taken. And I think that was a record, or darn close to it. And then last year was close to that. It was 208,000. And for the first time, more does taken than bucks.
Really?
Yeah. Because they split bucks between antlered is what they refer to them as, and then button bucks.
Well, you guys break this down.
Does. Yeah.
This is deer harvest by zone by sex.
Right. Yeah, that's just one category.
It's just one category. There's
you can slice it a bunch of ways. And,
wow.
And they do. And those guys work really hard to keep these numbers. They think that sometimes we're just out there pulling things out of the air and making up rules as we go. But these are the numbers that kind of drive the decisions that we make on how many deer you can take in this zone and how long that season's going to be. And it really is a numbers game, and it's all about the population and the health of it. I don't think anybody needs to be convinced that we have a pretty healthy population, or at least as far as numbers go, and their health is good. Fortunately, we still have no confirmations of chronic wasting disease, CWD, which is sort of think of mad cow disease only for cervids, for deer and elk. And for deer, we just don't have that in Arkansas right now, and we'd like to keep it that way.
I heard that.
So if you hunt out of state and you do harvest, make sure that all of that venison is off the bone before you bring it into Arkansas. It's illegal to import deer from or cervids from any other state into Arkansas now, unless it's clean. It has to be off the bone. So that's big news. We're kind of excited. I'm personally excited about it. Haven't had a chance to get out yet, but I'm looking forward to it. This time of year, archery season is as much about tree stand hunting as it is probably anything, and we're on a huge campaign this year to talk about tree stand safety. Once upon a time, being mistaken for game was the #1 cause for a hunting incident. Now it's a fall from a tree stand. And the majority of those falls take place when people are getting up and down, and much like driving a car, most of those involve people that are not wearing a harness, or a fall arrest system is the technical name for that. But anytime you buy a tree stand, it comes with a harness, comes with a video that shows you how to use the harness, and we are really trying to get folks' attention to make sure they use that. We get some horrific reports on people that fall, and I hate to be morbid about it first thing in the morning, but sometimes these victims will just lay there upside down, either dying or dead, for hours and hours before somebody realizes they're not where they need to be. And a lot of hunter safety things. Some of it's common sense. Use that harness. Strap in. Learn how to do it properly. There's a right way and a wrong way. Don't just tie a rope around your waist. That's probably the worst thing you can do. You'll certainly break your back if you do that. The other thing is, let somebody know when you're going into the woods. Let somebody who's responsible, let them know where you're going, when you're going. When I go, I actually give the GPS coordinates to my wife.
I started to say, with all the technology, just give the GPS coordinates.
Yeah, now I only give them to my wife. I don't put those on.
You don't give your secret location to everybody, Dennis.
Well, not too many people do.
We'd have a crowd out there deer hunting.
Yeah, well, actually, I am pretty open with where I go and what I do, but I kind of joke about that. But I do always leave her, a note. Actually, I'll print it off and put that right there. And of course, I work for Game and Fish, and Emily knows most of the game wardens anyway, so she knows exactly who to call. But if you don't know exactly who to call, start with 911. If you have our hotline number, that might save you a step, but 911's a good way to go. They're connected right to our dispatch, and they will get folks out, lickety-split.
Well, let me point out, though, you have an outstanding hunter education course, and I don't care if you're 85 years old or 15 years old. It's mandatory for people born after 1964? 68. So why not have a refresher course for the experienced hunter? Is that a bad thing? I mean, even if it was a 3-4 hour refresher course?
No, that's not a bad thing at all, Dale. And in fact, that's probably worth some thought. We are looking at, and there's, I don't want to start rumors. No changes are in the works yet, but we are looking at different ways to present our hunting education information, not just the mandated hunter education course. We do have workshops from time to time. In fact, I'm going to be doing one in Alpena in a couple of weeks on tree stand safety. In fact, school teachers, if you're out there, or any organization leader, or extension agents, anybody that wants to do it, give me a call. We'll give you my number at the end of the show. Give me a call, and I'll bring tree stands out to your location, and I'll set them up and show whoever's there how to properly put on the harness and how to set up your straps and do all of that stuff. So we do sort of do that. But back to your point, the way the hunter education program is today, it's a 10-hour mandated course, which, when you were a kid and I was a kid, that's what we did. We'd sit in school for however many hours a day and listen to the teacher go on. And, well, kids don't learn that way today. They're not going to sit for 10 hours and listen to some 62-year-old fat, bald guy talk about, what they're supposed to do or not do. So we're looking for new ways to do that. And we do have some online course options, which, in fact, you can take the entire course online if you want. But we're looking at a combination of that, where you can do the book learning part of it on your own time, online, which is, more people gain information that way today anyway. Right. And then bring the voucher to us saying that you've done that, and then we can get into some practical hands-on, here's how you climb a fence when you've got a gun with you, and of course, just for those of you who are wondering, you unload it, you climb the fence, then you take the gun, and then you load it back up again. And if you're with a buddy, you hand it off to them, and, you do that. But you don't climb
You hand the unloaded gun to the buddy.
Right, yeah. You don't climb a fence with a loaded gun over your shoulder. You don't climb your tree stand with anything on your shoulder. A lot of times we'll see folks climbing up with their backpack, or they'll put their rifle on, or their bow, they'll sling it over their shoulder and then start climbing up. Don't do that. Use a haul rope or strap or line, which is, that's what most of us do. Tie all that stuff off, climb up into the stand, and then haul that, first haul your pack up in place, and then when all that's done, then haul your firearm or your bow, and then everything's safe. Then if you fall, you're not going to land on one of your arrows, or your gun's not going to go off, or anything like that. Plus, your center of gravity is all thrown off when you're wearing a backpack, and that's the last position you want to be in when you're trying to climb a tree. I mean, Anyway, those are all some of the
this
things.
Like common sense, though?
It is, but, sometimes we get out there and, we're anxious. First of all, it's dark, usually. It's usually pitch dark. There's a little bit of adrenaline going on there. You're excited.
Hurry up, let's get that stand. Hurry up, we got to get set, got to be quiet, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so, if you can slow it down, use common sense. And these courses that we offer are geared just toward that. It's not meant to suggest to the hunter that they don't already know these things. It's really meant as a reminder or kind of a refresher, like you said. And so, we do that, but we haven't really set it up programmatically, and maybe we need to think about doing something like that. It wouldn't be hard to do. I mean, we've got the information. But anyway.
See, at my age, it wasn't mandatory.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't for me either. When my kids became old enough, in fact, that's what a lot of folks will go through, is they'll come through with their kids or their grandkids, and we see quite a bit of that.
Yep.
And we really encourage and applaud that as well. When a kid is sitting in a class and, dad or mom or, the older brother or sister or papa or somebody, is sitting there right with them. Boy, there's that unspoken message sent that, hey, the people that matter in your life take this really seriously too. You know, and we're going to give up our time as well. So, and you can see that. You can see that just in the way the kids will respond and how they pay attention, and you know, they take this quite seriously. So, don't be afraid to go with your youngster if they're going to Hunter Ed. Come along with them. You know, and every time, Dale, every single time, and especially the experienced hunters that do that with their kids, they'll come up to us afterwards and they'll say, you know, I just kind of did this because I wanted to be there to support them and kind of let them know that, man, I learned so much today. There was so many things I hadn't thought about, or I'd heard that years ago but hadn't thought about it since.
Exactly.
I never don't get those comments. Yeah. So, yeah, it's good.
You know, when my dad and grandfather were teaching us to hunt, it was normally up in Missouri, where my grandparents had a lot of large acre woods. And it was merely, grab your gun, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we didn't have the orange on and all this. I mean, yeah, we were on private property, but, you know, of course, this is very early 70s, and a lot of laws have changed in that time frame.
It was the same with us too. It was the red and black checkered plaid.
Yeah.
That's what we would. Yeah, the wool, because I was hunting up in New England where it was always cold when hunting season started. It was 1 week, first week of December, shotguns only. It was a whole different world up there.
The whole world.
And if you even saw a track, that was a big deal back then. In the 60s and 70s, there was not the population we have today. And I hear that from folks who grew up down here too. And it wasn't always like it is now. So the deer populations come back. There's a lot more people out there in the woods sometimes. We think there is anyway. I don't know if the statistics of numbers of hunters back that up or not. But on public ground, we have a lot of public ground here in Arkansas. A lot of good public hunting ground. So when you're out there, just realize you're not the only one out there.
Have any idea what our black bear population is in this part of Arkansas?
Well, in this part,
basically from, say, Yellville to Salem?
Yeah, well,
south of the state line?
There's bear zones just like there is deer zones. They're different zones because they kind of break them up more like a spoken wheel kind of pattern if you looked on the map. And I don't know what our zone's population is. I know statewide they're in the 4,000 to 5,000 range, you know, somewhere in there.
Oh, here we go, black bear.
You could probably get the zone. While you're looking for that, I do want to make mention of the next Hunter Ed class coming up at the Fred Berry Education Center, and we'll send you a public service announcement for this if we haven't already. This one is being put on by the Extension, Marion County Extension Office, 4-H. So that'll be December. There's actually one December 19th. That's a game and fish one, but it's full. But there's one December 31st as well, and the Extension Office is putting that on. And you can call the Extension Office. Their number is 870-449-6349. And that's 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's a long day, so, you know, bring your lunch and snacks and whatever you want. But come out and do that, because we also have the online version. And I will be setting up another few, you know, here in Baxter County as well as other counties in the area. If you're curious to know what counties or where they're going to be, again, go to agfc.com. Follow the education links to Hunter Education, and there'll be a list by county of the date and who to call to register. And some classes they want you to register, some they don't care, just show up. It depends on how much room, you know, the classroom has. So that's how that goes on. Speaking of bow hunting, this Saturday, the 3rd, December 3rd,
October 3rd.
I'm sorry, October 3rd, thanks.
That gets us too close to Christmas too fast.
Yeah. I'm
not prepared, Dennis.
I do that.
October 3rd.
My tongue goes faster than my brain sometimes. But anyway, Corporal Tim Davenport, he's one of our wildlife officers in Marion County. He's going to be conducting a beginning bow hunting workshop.
Oh, good.
Yes, it'll be a couple of hours. I mean, it's not meant to turn you into you know, a great bow hunter, but it'll certainly give you the basics and point you in the right direction to get started. And that will be at the Fred Berry Education Center on Crooked Creek over in Yellville.
What time does it start? 8 a.m.?
That starts at 8 a.m., yep.
This Saturday?
This coming Saturday, yes. And you can call the Fred Berry Center if you want more information. You don't have to register. It's free. There's no charge for that, or pretty much everything we do is free unless there's, you know, a lodging charge or something like that.
Sure.
But that phone number is 870-449-3484. And
what number is that?
That's the number for the Fredberry Education Center in Yellville. And so that'll be a good time. If you're kind of curious as to what bow hunting's about and want the basics, then go check that out.
That brings us up to news time. Real quick, Norfolk Athletic Annual Fish Fry is Saturday, October 3rd from 4 to 7, Norfolk School Cafeteria. All you can eat catfish and trimmings for $8, 5 and under, eat free. For more information, 870-499-7191. Time for the news. We'll be right back. $7:35. Can you believe the end of September? Tomorrow's October 1st already. The last quarter of the year, the last 3 months.
It is flying. It seemed like it was a week ago.
Pull that mic over a little bit. Let me get a better,
sorry.
There you go. Better fidelity on the mic.
It seemed like a week ago that I was starting to line up the fall programs for the hunting season and qualifying new hunter education instructors and all that. It's like, bam, here it is.
The fall of the year. Wow.
You know, we're doing another new thing this year, Dale, that, well, we actually ran a pilot of it last year, and that's youth hunts over at the Fredberry Center.
Yes, I remember
and
that.
we're kind of doing this statewide. It's not just a local thing, but Game and Fish is realizing, of course, that we could always, we need to groom and bring awareness to new hunters. And so in some areas we're looking to kids. Of course, that's sort of a no-brainer, is to educate them and bring them in. And what we're doing here in this part of the state is setting up youth hunts, but it's not just a youth hunt where the youth applies or the parent applies for them and sends the kid on. What we're doing is have we just did one last weekend. We have the child and a parent or a legal guardian, or somebody who's approved by the legal guardian, and then a Game and Fish mentor. So, and we just did one last week for dove hunting, and it was great because the doves were not as numerous as we had hoped. We're not as fortunate as they are in the Delta with the number of birds that they have there. And we did have quite a few birds at the Fredberry Center, and then that cold spell came in and sort of pushed them on, and they just hadn't been back, and I'll bet they're coming back now. But anyway, moving through now, I should say. But anyway, we did that, and then they also, when they apply for that, need to commit to a deer hunt, and we'll be doing that in November. And I forget the date of that. I want to say the 19th or something. So the kids come in and they'll do a dove hunt, and then a month or two later we'll do a deer hunt, and the parents do it with them, and then we teach them what to do and give them a lot of information. It's a weekend camp. They come in Friday night, and we have an educational component. We feed them whatever's germane to the type of hunt. If it's a squirrel hunt, then we'll feed them squirrel and that sort of thing. But anyway, it's going well. Other parts of the state, they're doing similar things, but they're targeting young adults. And then in other areas, they're targeting, the 30-somethings. Trying to get folks that are sort of interested in hunting but don't know how to start, or don't even know if they're going to like it, so they don't want to go out and invest thousands of dollars into all of the equipment and clothing and firearms or whatever. And we provide, well, we don't provide their clothing, but we do provide all the safety clothing, like the safety vests. And for the kids, we give them gloves and hats and, things that they may not. If they do show up, they might show up with a pair of cotton painter's gloves. We don't want that. So we make sure that they're safe and basically well equipped. Use ground blinds, teach them all the proper techniques of how to do this stuff. Then we give them information on where to go do this on their own. And so I'd love to be able to report back next year that we're getting good numbers and results, and we certainly hope we will and expect we will. It's like a recruitment retention program we're trying to push. So we did that last week, and that was good, and getting ready for the deer hunt. Another thing I got to do was last week was a pretty busy week, but I went out with our trout biologists for a population survey, a shocking trip, which is absolutely fascinating. If you ever get a chance to go, and sometimes they will invite folks from the public, or sometimes they'll donate one of these trips to a group that's trying to raise money, and they'll auction a seat on the boat. And everybody works. If you go, don't think you're going to just sit and watch. You'll be doing something vital to the mission. We did the Norfolk River, started about 7:30 at night, and went till about 4 o'clock in the morning. And the reason I'm bringing all of this up is I hear from time to time folks will call, or I'll run into them. And as you know, I'm a fly fisherman and know the rivers quite well. And I'll hear comments about, man, there's just no big trout in the river anymore. Or what happened to all the big fish? Or, let me tell you, when you go and actually shock these things up and see the numbers and the size, and not just the big browns, but big rainbows and big cutthroats, I was blown away.
Yeah, explain what you mean by the shock.
Okay, well, it's a two-boat process, and each boat has a few people in it. One of them is a shocking boat, and the other one is just works up the data. But it's a river boat, one of those 20-foot-long river boats, and it has two tentacles that reach out from the front and dip these electrodes. They look like an umbrella frame that dangle in the water, and there's a generator on board, and it generates, I don't know what the specs are, how much voltage or current, but it puts an electric shock into the water, and that stuns the fish. Doesn't kill them. A lot of folks think we kill the fish with that, and it's a non-mortal approach. And it stuns the fish. They float to the top. We take a net and bring them into the boat, and then we measure them, weigh them. If it's a fish that we had tagged, or if we had marked it in the past, sometimes we'll freeze brand them. Sometimes we'll clip the fin, the adipose fin, which is that little fin just before the tail. And if it's marked in any way, we'll note that so that we have data on when that fish was stocked or whatever it was. And then collect information. And because of the way they do it, they'll run a sample for 10 minutes. For 600 seconds, and they count it to the second. They'll say this population sample was for 604 seconds, and this one was 599. So they try to get it right at 600 seconds or 10 minutes, and that's all they do it. And we'll do 11 or 12 of those in a night. And so, it's a very controlled, sampling and somewhat representative of the total numbers of fish in the river, but it does give a representation of the size ratios and where they are and concentrations.
What was the biggest?
I'm forgetting what it is now, but it was well over 20 pounds. We had a brown trout that we pulled out of I'll give you this much. It was up by McClellan's in that area, and if I told you exactly where, it wouldn't matter because they move, of course.
Sure.
But it was up by the old McClellan's access point there, and it was I'd have to pull the numbers out to see what it was, but it was over 20 pounds.
And it was a brown?
It was a brown trout, and it was a beast. This thing was huge. So, yeah.
So that grandfather's still swimming around down there, right?
It is, and there were others that were, almost that big as well. I mean, it wasn't like they were all, 8 and 10 pound fish, and then we had this anomaly monster. I mean, there were a lot of very big fish.
I've got to ask you this question before we take a break. Heard a lot of people talking about copperheads this year and the copperhead population.
Yeah.
It's very rare that I see a snake in my backyard. I've got about half acre of woods in the backyard, and I had a huge Arkansas black rat snake.
Yeah.
He's out there by the barn. I'm like, okay, you just mosey on around. You go catch another rat or mouse or something. I didn't kill him, just tickled his tail a bit and said, you go that way and I'll go this way. But
right.
I've been hearing a lot of reports about copperheads.
Well, I hadn't been hearing that, but excuse me, that means nothing. That doesn't mean that they're not. Because they're getting ready to go dormant, so they're probably moving around just like most of the other critters that are getting ready for the winter. I haven't heard any reports or no memos have come out or talking points about that.
In fact, let's see, when was it? Earlier, probably around late May, early June. My youngest son was working a farm east of town here, about 7 miles, and he's moving some rocks, and he's not afraid of snakes at all. Oh, wow, there's a snake. So he put the boot heel on the head of the snake and got his knife and cut the head off. And didn't think twice about it, and then came back and Googled, oh, well, that was a copperhead. And it's like, 3 or 4 of them that they saw that week, and that one just happened to be at his ankle.
Well, that time of year, because they're
and it was still pretty wet that time of year too.
Right,
had a lot to do.
And
with
that's also their breeding season too. Early to mid spring, because that's a little bit later on. But they're definitely up and moving around now. There's not their breeding season, but they are getting ready to nest and go dormant and find their little coveys that they'll be doing that. I don't have information on that, but that doesn't mean that I'm in the loop. We do have a state herpetologist who would probably know a whole lot more, and you can reach him by calling our Little Rock office. I'll give that number if you want to jot it down.
Sure.
It's 501-223-6300. And you could just ask to speak to a herpetologist, or you can go to the website, and down in the lower right corner of the homepage is an Ask AGFC hut button, and you can hit that, and it'll pull up an email banner, and you can send an email off. And there's a woman down there, and Kim Cartwright, and her function is to field all those questions. She knows more than anybody I've ever met, and she answers quite a few. But some certain ones, she'll get it to the right expert and make sure that they get back to you. So there's ways to find out if there's an uptick in the population of a particular species here or there.
Let's go ahead and take a quick break here. That gives us more time to close out the show. We're visiting with Denis Dunderdale of Arkansas Game and Fish. Time for a quick break. We'll be right back. 7:48, we're continuing our talk with Denis Dunderdale of Arkansas Game and Fish. And once again, you can go to www.agfc.com and follow along with some of the things we're talking about.
A couple of things I want to promote while I'm thinking about it, and I don't want to squeeze it in the last second and rush it, but we've got the Ducks Unlimited fundraiser, the annual fundraiser banquet for the local chapter, is the Twin Lakes Ducks Unlimited chapter. A lot of folks know... gosh, you know how your mind just goes blank, but Michael, good grief, I'll come back to that in just a second.
Do I need to Google something for you?
No, I've got it here. I'll just find it in front of me. But anyway, it is October 17th. That's a Saturday night at the fairgrounds, and it's the one time a year event that we raise for duck hunting, which a lot of folks don't realize. Duck hunting is, it's not huge like it is down in Stuttgart, but we've got some pretty decent waterfowling going on in this area, especially when things all freeze up and go to the river, because that's where the only place the ducks can find open water sometimes of the year. But even still, up on the lakes and in some of the coves, and duck hunting is clearly a thing here. And in order to support that and to support the habitat development and research and all of those, we along with every other chapter have a banquet. I'm on the committee for that, as well as a few other game and fish folks are. And it's coming up the 17th. It's at the fairgrounds. The tickets for that are $35 for a single person, $50 for a couple, and $15 for a green wing, which is what they call their youth program. So if you want to bring your kids along, and we'll have our laser shot game, which is sort of a computerized duck hunting thing where we've got ducks flying on the screen, and we have laser-activated shotguns, and you shoot them, and you either hit the duck and it falls out of the sky and you get points, or you miss and it flies away. It's a pretty interesting thing. Kids love it. You can also buy tables. Of course, we have the bronze tables is $275 for a table of 8, and you'll get a limited edition Dwayne Hayter print for that.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
And it's a gorgeous print, too. And then we have a $500, which is the teal level. That's an 8-person table. And you'll get a K2, a Ducks Unlimited K2 cooler, which is really nice. It's one of those high-end, high-tech super coolers that you see around. And then we have the Wood Duck sponsor, which is $1,500, and everybody there gets to pick, not everybody, the person that buys that table gets to pick one of the Ducks Unlimited Great Gun Giveaway guns. So you get to pick a gun, for that table. And then, anyway, different levels of sponsorship. You can call me directly if you want to. Again, my number is 870-321-5548. And I'll hook you up with tickets that way. Or you can stop by the Game and Fish office at 201 East 5th Street in Mountain Home, which is diagonally behind the square on the corner of Church and 5th Street. And you can come by and we'll hook you up with tickets that way as well. Other events going on this weekend is the International Fly Fishing Federation's, they used to call it the Conclave. Now it's called the Expo and Fly Fishing Fair. And that's going on this weekend at the fairgrounds. So stop by and see that. That will be Friday and Saturday. I'll be there both afternoons tying flies, along with a bunch of other folks who are much better at tying than I am, but I love to do it, so I'll be there trying to help with that. And then the next thing I wanted to talk about, and this is more of a push to school teachers or other organizations that have groups of kids. Yesterday and today, in fact, when I leave here, I've got to hustle right over to our place in Yellville. We have a youth expo for the Mountain Home Junior High kids, and we will have, by the end of today, every 8th grade student from Mountain Home Junior High. Yesterday was the girls. We had about 150 of them. Today is the boys. And the way that expo works is there's a handful of different venues. One of them is fishing. That's the one I'm working. Then there's an archery venue where one of the archery experts will be taking the kids. They break the kids into about groups of 15 or so and move them from one group to another. It lasts for about 45 minutes to an hour. And they'll fish for an hour, and then they'll go from there, and they'll go up and they'll shoot bows and arrows. And they're taught how to do these. It's not just stick the bow in the kid's hand and say, here, have fun. It's an educational thing. We have a geocaching venue there. There's a program on the Arkansas black bear to talk about their habitat and some of the biology and a little bit of the history and that sort of thing, and just raise awareness, teach kids about various species. We have another one about birding, on how to go to the field and find, this species or that species, and how to identify them by sound or by sight. So anyway, it's a great opportunity, and so school teachers or homeschool associations or church groups or whatever, if you're interested in that, give me a call. Again, my number is 870-321-5548, or you can call the Fred Berry Education Center and talk to Marilyn over there. She's been on the show. And that number is 870-449-3484. I do caution you this, though. If you want to do it, please don't call us this week and expect to do it next week.
Yeah.
It takes time to set this up, and we have to develop resources and line volunteers or educators to come in. But we're thrilled to do that, and would be glad to. Not just here in Mountain View, in Mountain Home, but we can do it in other places in north central Arkansas as well. So.
Minute and a half.
All right. So what else have we got that I can talk about? Got the TU banquet, mentioned that. Tree stand safety, we covered all of that. Dove hunting season's going well. Of course, it's winding down now. Most of the doves.
You too, huh?
But clear our throat simultaneously. That way they don't know which one of us did it. Anyway, the dove hunting season's moving right along. It'll be over, before we know it. And of course, doves migrate. They're not. We think they're here all the time, but a few hold over. But they do kind of move through, and they're moving through. And the big deal now is the deer season coming up. The archery season's already underway. Bear season's underway, or archery bear season is. And safety, safety, safety. You don't need to wear hunter orange when only an archery season is open. If there's no rifle or muzzle loading season open, no firearm season, then you don't have to wear the hunter orange. But once that season starts, and muzzle loading, I believe that starts on the 17th is when muzzle loading opens. Even if you're bow hunting,
gotta have hunter
you
orange.
Still need to wear the orange. If there's a rifle or a muzzle loading season open, you've got to do that. We also have the antlerless deer season, private land. It's a private land only season. You have to wear it there too, and it's not just public ground. It's all hunting ground. So, anyway,
thanks for being here today.
Thrilled to be here.
Been visiting with Denis Dunderdale, Arkansas Game and Fish. Check out the website www.agfc. Real quick, Norfolk School's Athletic Annual Fish Fry, Saturday, October 3rd, 4 to 7, Norfolk School Cafeteria. All the catfish you can eat. Tickets $8. Children 5 and under are free. That wraps it up. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.